Let me ask you something. Have you been doing all the spiritual work, like meditating, journaling, setting intentions, pulling your oracle cards, saying affirmations, and yet nothing's changing? You know what you want. You're clear on your desires. You're taking the classes and reading the books and doing the practices, but the relationship patterns are still the same. The money blocks are still there. You can't seem to take the leap that you know you need to take. And you start wondering, what am I doing wrong? Why isn't this working for me? Well, here's what I want you to understand. And it might be hard to hear, but also incredibly relieving. You are not doing anything wrong. Your spiritual practices aren't broken, and you're not bad at manifesting. The issue is that you're trying to access your higher self, connect with the universe, and create from an elevated frequency while your nervous system is stuck in survival mode. And you can't do both at the same time. You can't manifest abundance when your body thinks scarcity is what keeps you safe. And you can't step into visibility when your nervous system reads being seen as danger. And you can't create healthy love when your system is wired to expect betrayal. And today, we're talking about why spiritual growth requires nervous system regulation first, and what to do when you realize that you have been skipping that step. Welcome to Jyotindi, Journey to the Inner Divine, a sacred space for healing energy, emotional release, and soulful transformation. If you're ready to live with joy, ease, and purpose, you're in the right place. So first, I want to talk about nervous system basics. Now, we did do another episode all on this, so this is just a quick refresher. But your nervous system has different states. It has safe and social, or what some people call rest and digest, or ventral vagal. This is where your connection and creativity and growth and healing happen. You feel calm and grounded and open. This is where your higher self lives. Then you have fight or flight, or your sympathetic nervous system. This is all about survival mode. Your system is activated, you're looking for threats, you're hyper vigilant and anxious, and you're on edge, and it's not a great place to be. Then there is the freeze or shutdown mode or dorsal vagal. This is where your system gives up on fighting. You feel numb, you feel disconnected, exhausted, hopeless. You're stuck. And here's what most people don't realize. If you're in fight, flight, or freeze, your system is literally not wired for growth. It's wired for survival. And what survival looks like in your spiritual practice, you might be sitting down to meditate, but your mind is racing with worries about money, replaying a conversation, or planning your day. Maybe you have thoughts of all the more important things you should be doing rather than just sitting and being present. You can't drop in because your system doesn't feel safe enough to let go of all of those things swirling around in your mind. You might be journaling about your desires, but as soon as you write down what you really want, anxiety floods your body because your system reads more as dangerous. Maybe you're saying affirmations like, I'm abundant, but your body is screaming, we are not safe. We need to conserve. We can't risk anything. And the disconnect happens because your conscious mind wants growth. Your soul is calling you toward expansion, and you can feel that, and you want desperately to move towards it. But your nervous system, the part of you that has been keeping you alive, is saying, absolutely not. The way we survive is by staying small, staying invisible, staying in control, because growth is dangerous. So, why does this happen? Why does your nervous system work so hard to keep you small? Well, it could be a couple of things. It could be from past trauma. Maybe your system learned that certain things like visibility or success or intimacy led to pain. And so now it's trying to protect you from those things. Maybe there was a lot of childhood conditioning. Maybe there was childhood conditioning. You were raised in chaos or scarcity or conditional love. So your baseline is dysregulation. Many of us who grew up in toxic households learned to believe that this was normal, that this is just how things were. In my house, everyone was focused on keeping one person calm. So we shrank. We became invisible. We placed her needs ahead of everyone else. We accommodated and compromised and took the abuse when we failed at accomplishing any of this, or whenever she was just bored and needed to freak out on someone. When you grow up in that type of environment, you condition your mind and your nervous system to think that that is how things should be. So then when you try to change it, it feels weird or boring or unfamiliar. And when you face the unfamiliar, your nervous system hates that. It doesn't know how to operate in the unknown, so it draws you back into the situations and the circumstances that it knows you can tolerate, even if you hate it, because that means survival. Another reason this happens is current stress. Even if your past was fine, if you're currently overwhelmed, your nervous system is in survival mode. And this can be a huge block for moving forward or becoming centered or even just being able to relax. Overwhelm creates a vicious cycle of stress and paralysis, and it keeps you stuck. Now, you can have all of this knowledge and you can have all of the spiritual knowledge in the world. You can understand manifestation and the law of attraction and quantum healing. But if your body doesn't feel safe, none of it is going to land because your nervous system overrides your conscious intentions every single time. Have you ever seen somebody who seems to just have it all? Like they have the money and the relationship and the happiness. And what do those people all have in common? They have great vibes. They are peaceful and they move consciously through life with intention. They're flexible when things don't go as planned. They radiate positivity. And so when you can learn to regulate your system, when you know that you have the tools to overcome life's challenges, it is so much easier to maintain that high vibrational state because things aren't as stressful because you know that you'll be able to handle whatever comes up. So, why are we here? Why are we all listening to this podcast right now? Well, we're here to heal emotionally and energetically, right? That's like the whole point of this. But for what purpose? Why are you trying to heal? Do you want to be happier? Do you want to improve your relationships, maybe with your family or your partner? Are you here to learn how to draw in more money or career satisfaction or to attain the perfect body? Whatever your motivations are, we are all here to manifest something new in our lives. And there is this manifestation paradox, okay? So many manifestation teachings are going to tell you just believe it, feel it as if it's already yours, raise your vibration, act as if. And that teaching is not wrong, but it's incomplete. Because if your nervous system is dysregulated, you literally cannot hold on to that frequency of what you're trying to call in. I want to give you some examples of what actually happens. Okay. The first example we're going to use is money. We all love money, right? You say you want more money. So you do the visualizations, you set your intentions, you even take some action. But deep in your nervous system, more money feels threatening because maybe when you were growing up, money meant your parents were fighting a lot. Or maybe when your family had money, someone took advantage and took it away from you guys. Or maybe you learned that money changes people or that rich people are greedy. So in your system, which is trying to protect you, it keeps you at the income level that it deems as safe. And every time you get close to breaking through, something happens. Maybe it's an unexpected expense, or self-sabotage or some kind of pattern that pulls you back into your comfort zone. That's not bad luck. That is your nervous system doing its job, trying to keep you safe and alive. Okay, let's talk example 2, visibility. You say you want to be seen. You want to share your gifts with the world. You want to build your business, step into leadership. But your nervous system remembers that one time you were vulnerable, you got hurt. Or the time that you stood out, you got punished. Or maybe that one time you were too much and people rejected you. So even though you want visibility, your body is reading it as danger. So you procrastinate, you hide, you dim your light, you stay small, and not because you're lazy, but because your system is protecting you from a threat that it believes is real. Now, the third example we're going to use is love. Of course, everybody loves love, right? You say you want that healthy, aligned, unconditional love, but your nervous system only knows love that is conditional, or love that hurts, or love that leaves. So when someone shows up who's actually safe and kind and consistent, your system actually panics. It doesn't recognize this. It feels wrong. Maybe it feels boring. Does that sound familiar? So either you push them away or you stay, but you never fully let them in. And the brutal truth is that you can't trick your nervous system with affirmations. You can say, I'm safe 1,000 times. But if your body is holding on to that trauma and holding on to those old stories or holding on to the belief that the world is dangerous, your body is going to win every single time. And this is why emotional release and somatic work that we talk about so much on this podcast are critical, because you're not just letting go of your emotions. You're clearing out the stored information in your nervous system so that it can finally update its threat assessment. And once you update your threat assessment, then you can start to manifest the things that you truly want in your life. Okay, switch gears a little bit here. I want to talk about the signs that your nervous system is blocking your growth. Because having all this knowledge is great, but if you don't know how to recognize it, it's not going to do you any good. So let's talk about it. How do you know if this is what is happening for you? Here are some signs that your nervous system is running the show and not your higher self. 1, you know what you want, but you can't seem to take that action. And like I said, it's not laziness. This is your freeze response. Your system is overwhelmed, so it's shutting down to protect you. 2, maybe you take action, but then you self-sabotage right before a breakthrough. Your system will hit its upper limit of what feels safe, and so it pulls you right back down to your comfort zone. 3, you feel anxious or panicky when you think about your desires. If imagining success makes your heart race, but not in a good way, kind of in an anxious, bad way, that's your system seeing it as a threat instead of something beautiful to work towards. 4, if you're exhausted all the time, even when you're resting, that is a big warning sign, because chronic dysregulation is draining. Your system is using all its energy to stay vigilant all the time, so you never allow your body to actually truly rest. 5, you can't meditate. You can't sit still. You can't drop into your body because your system doesn't feel safe enough to let go of control. It doesn't feel safe enough to just allow you to be in the present moment without trying to control everything around you. 6, you keep choosing the same painful patterns even though you know better. Maybe you've done some work and you've identified these really damaging patterns in your life. And even though you can see them clearly, you can't avoid repeating them. It makes you feel dumb. It makes you feel like a loser. Like you can see yourself running towards danger and you just keep running anyway, even though you know better. But your system chooses familiar over safe. It might be painful, but it's known. And what is known feels safer than good, but unknown. That is why your nervous system will keep drawing you back into unhealthy or uncomfortable patterns. Because if you survived it once, you can survive it again. And so your nervous system is trying to protect you and keep you alive. And number 7, spiritual practices feel like one more thing to do instead of nourishing. Because when your system is constantly stuck in survival mode, even self care can feel like a burden, like one more thing to add to your to do list. So, if any of those resonate with you, like I said earlier, you are not broken. You're just trying to build a life from a foundation that isn't quite stable yet. So, let's work on getting you there. This isn't about shaming yourself for being dysregulated, because the truth is, most of us are. Trauma and stress and the pace of modern life, it's normal to be in survival mode more than we should be. It's not healthy, but it's so common. And the real work is recognizing it and then doing something about it. And that's why regulation is so important. And it's also why we practice regulation first and then manifestation, because the order matters. Here's the path that is actually going to work for you. The first step is to regulate your nervous system. And then the second step is to build safety in your body. And the third step is then you can access your higher states and you can manifest and you can connect with your higher self and do all of the beautiful things that we are learning how to do on this podcast. But unfortunately, it does not work the other way around. And I'm not saying that you need to put your spiritual growth on hold until you've reprocessed and integrated every past trauma. What I'm saying is that you need to strike a balance. You need to spend some time with both and spend some time regulating right before diving into your spiritual work. And I want to share with you some things that you can do to prepare for your spiritual connection sessions and teach you how you can start regulating your nervous system right away. The first practice is grounding. This is where you connect with the earth. You really get connected, okay? You get out of your head and into your body. A simple practice is to put your feet on the floor and then look around the room and notice 5 things that you can see. Think of 4 things that you can feel, like the chair beneath you. Listen to your surroundings and identify 3 sounds. This could be the sound of your breath, the sound of an air conditioner, traffic outside, anything like that. Then you're going to notice 2 things that you can smell. This could be the smell of anything, your deodorant. It could be the smell of a plant that's in the room with you. And the last thing you're going to do is identify 1 thing that you can taste. Maybe you just had a cup of coffee, or you just brushed your teeth, or maybe you just taste the inside of your mouth. This grounding practice works because your nervous system needs evidence that you're safe right now. And this grounding provides that evidence. So, practice number 2 is a breathing practice. We're going to regulate your breath to help regulate your whole system, because your breath is the fastest way to signal safety to your nervous system. And the one that I like that I've been using a lot lately is the 4-4-6 breath. This is where you breathe in for the count of 4, you hold it for 4, and then you exhale for a count of 6. And if you're able to, make an audible sigh when you exhale. So instead of just wind coming out of your mouth, it'll be something like this. And the exhale is key, because the exhale is what activates your parasympathetic or your calm nervous system. You can do this before any spiritual practice. I do this before bed when I'm trying to unwind to go to sleep. This breathing exercise is excellent for helping you calm down and relax and regulate your nervous system, because you are literally changing your physiology. The longer exhale tells your body that you're not in danger. The third practice you can do is somatic release. And I do love me some somatic releases, because trauma and stress get stored in your body, not just in your mind. And movement helps complete the stress cycle. If you ever see a wild animal in a chase and they escape the predator that's coming after them, oftentimes you'll see them tremble or shake afterwards. And that is their body helping to dispel the excess energy and adrenaline that they just experienced. And for some reason, humans have kind of got away from that. When we experience a stress or a trauma, we don't want to show our emotions, right? We don't want to cry in front of people. We don't want to shake. We don't want to tremble. We don't want to be cringe. We want to feel like we've got it all together. Oh, no, no, I'm fine. But that shaking, that physical movement is what completes the stress cycle for you. So, a really simple practice is that you can just shake it out. Just shake your body, shake your hands, shake your legs, allow that energy to dissipate. The other practices that I love, of course, is dancing or stretching or just moving your body in a way that feels good. My personal preference is to find some music that I can really, really get lost in, something that I can feel in my body, maybe something that doesn't have words and is just a rhythm. And then as I let the music into my ears, I allow my body to start moving however it feels comfortable with the music and just really allow yourself to get into it and not worry about being judged or what other people are going to think about you and just move your body in a way that feels good. And any emotions that come up while you're doing this, let them come up and move through you. Practice number 4, there is co regulation. And this is being around safe people because your nervous system will regulate with the nervous system of others. So when you spend time with people who feel calm or safe or grounded, or even just sitting with someone who's regulated, it can help you calm down your own nervous system. And this works because we are wired for connection. It's a very recent development, all this independence, and I can do everything on my own. People used to live in tribes, in groups. We are wired to help each other, to support each other, to help regulate each other. And safe relationships can literally change your nervous system state. Now, if you don't have any safe people in your immediate circle, really consider joining a support group. There are support groups for everything that you can possibly imagine. When my dad was sick with cancer, I joined a support group for friends and family of people who had cancer. And I can't even tell you how beneficial that was. I attribute getting through that time in my life to that group. It helped me see that I wasn't alone. It helped me come to terms with what was happening in my life currently and things that had happened in my past that I hadn't fully processed. I felt support. I felt care. I felt like people understood what I was going through and that I wasn't alone. And that co regulation got me through one of the toughest times in my life. And there are support groups for everything you could possibly think of, for depression, for loss of a pet, for being lonely. There are so many resources out there. So I highly recommend seeking something like that. And bonus points if you can find one in your area where you can go and be with people in person. Okay, practice number 5. We're going to titrate this. Okay, we're not going to try and do all of these regulation practices all at once or spend all day, every day trying to regulate our nervous system. We're going to go slow. We're going to start with a tiny bit and slowly build your capacity for this over time. We're not going to try to do everything at once. You're going to start with maybe 5 minutes of regulation practice a day. And the more that becomes comfortable, you can add in a little bit of time or add in a new technique. You're going to build your capacity gradually because your system needs time to learn that safety is possible. If you come in all at once and try to do a giant overhaul, your nervous system is going to see that as a threat. It's going to see it as you trying to take away everything that it knows to keep you safe, and it's going to resist. So we need to show it safety. We need to show it that this is a safe practice a little bit at a time so it can learn to trust you and trust these new practices. So now that you have a bunch of techniques to regulate your system and a plan about how to implement them in a way that is going to be successful for you, let's talk about what changes in your life when you are regulated. Once your nervous system starts to feel safer, some things that become possible is that your meditation actually works. You can drop in. You can feel connected to your body, to the present moment, to your breath. You can hear your intuition more clearly. Your manifestation practices land, right? You're finally able to hold the frequency of your desires without your body panicking. So your manifestation efforts become more consistent, more reliable instead of being hit or miss. You start to take aligned action without self sabotage because your system trusts that growth is safe, that growth is good, and growth brings in better circumstances. Your spiritual connection deepens. You begin to access your higher self because you're not constantly stuck in survival mode. And life starts to feel less like a battle and more like a flow. Because when you're regulated, aligned action becomes effortless. You're not forcing yourself to do things that your body and your nervous system are resisting. You're moving from a grounded and safe place, and that is true alignment. Now, I'm sure you've been able to tell, but I am super into integration. I feel that there is no point in learning all of these fun, juicy details if we're not going to implement them and embody them. So let's talk about the integration in all of this in your spiritual practice and your nervous system work, because it's not either or. I'm not saying to stop your spiritual practices in order to work on your nervous system. What I'm saying is to add in the nervous system regulation as the foundation for your spiritual practice. And what that could look like would be something like a morning practice. You start your day with 5 minutes of breath work or grounding. Then you meditate, or you pull a tarot card, or you journal, or set your intentions, whatever your normal spiritual practice is. Because your spiritual practice will be deeper because your system is calm enough to receive this. And then when resistance does come up, maybe you start journaling about your desires and all this anxiety floods in. Instead of pushing through, you're going to pause. You're going to realize that you're being dysregulated and you need to regulate. So you'll do some breath work. You'll do a grounding exercise, or you'll get up and move your body and have a somatic release. Then you'll come back to the practice. So your new formula is regulation plus spiritual practice equals sustainable growth. Because spiritual practice without regulation is just frustration and burnout. And if you are struggling to regulate on your own, that's where the community and the support come in. Like I said, finding a support group. You could work with a coach or join an online circle or having a safe place to process. That's co regulation. And that is going to accelerate all of this work. So, if you've been wondering why your spiritual practice isn't working, or why you can't seem to manifest what you want, why you keep hitting the same walls, this might be why. It's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's just that you've been trying to access higher consciousness from a nervous system that's stuck in survival. And unfortunately, you can't do both. So the invitation is this: tend to your nervous system first, not as a detour, but as the foundation. You're going to regulate, ground, build safety in your body. And then when your system feels safe enough to expand, then your spiritual practices will finally work the way that they're supposed to. And you'll be able to hold the frequency of your desires. You'll be able to take that aligned action. You'll be able to connect with your higher self without your body yanking you back into fear. And that's when everything changes. So pick an action step this week. Pick one of these regulation practices from today's episode and try it. Try it once a day for 7 days. Just one. Build that foundation. Show your nervous system that you're prioritizing safety. and notice what shifts in your spiritual practice as a result. If you want to take this deeper, I highly recommend you join my free Facebook group for ongoing support. It's called Joe Tindy. There's a link in the show notes, or you can search it on Facebook. And I've also created a free nervous system reset guide, and you can download it. The link is in the show notes, or you can go to www.mariaaurora.com/freebie/reset. And that is going to be your best friend on this nervous system regulation journey. Now, I want you to remember that your body is not the enemy of your spiritual growth. It's the vehicle for your spiritual growth. So when you tend to it and when you help make it feel safe, when you regulate before you try to elevate, that's when the magic finally happens. So I hope you got something amazing out of this episode, and I wanted to make a quick request from you. If you could please take a moment and leave me a short review for this podcast, I would be eternally grateful. And don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with somebody who you think would benefit from it. Thank you so much for being here. And remember, there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path.